So I have a lot of patterns, but some patterns are just tried and true. And in a hot market like this, my best patterns really shine. So watch this video as I talk about a few of my over the weekend and overnight plays. Sometimes I don't always hold overnight, but my goal is to hold overnight. And in this video, you'll understand why sometimes I sell same day when I'm forced to. Sometimes I sell half my position. Sometimes I hold into the next week. But in this video, you're going to learn about this strategy that has now been working for me for 2+ decades. It's crazy that it still works. I literally can't even make this up, but it's not an exact science. And in this video, I go into the nuances, and I really encourage you to watch this video, watch it a few times if you have to, see how I'm adapting on every single trade, and I'm adapting week after week. I think that's what you have to do with your own trading every single day, every single trade. You can learn a little something, take it to the next one. So in an ideal world, you learn and you earn. That way you get better and richer over time. But watch this video, take notes, join my weekend newsletter. It's on fire. And, congratulate yourself for being here at the right place at the right time. This market is on fire, but you got to capitalize. There's so many amazing new traders in our community. Good guys and good girls, really, who are willing to put in the time and dig into their data so they can keep doing better. And notice all of them, whether they made 6 or now 7 figures like Omer, they've all really focus on their process above all else. And Omer didn't even really want to celebrate his 7-figure success. He's like, I could have done better. I was like, sorry, you completed the 7-figure challenge. We have to celebrate it at least a little bit. But that's the mindset required. And you notice all the best students, all the best traders, they don't say the full amount. Like Rocky said, he's up like 175. I was like, no, 175,000. And how have you done in the past year since you went all in on yourself?
Up 175 so far this year.
Say the full number.
175,000.
That's amazing. Everyone give him a round of applause. They're not thinking in terms of money. The more you can think in terms of your process, how do you, give better results? How do you get bigger percentage gains? And that comes down to digging into your data, digging into your own trades, and trying to learn what's working best for you and what's working best in the market. I'm going to go over some trades right now. I have this over the weekend strategy that has been working very well for me, and it's worked for 20+ years, probably because I have to keep the trade at least, I'm trying to hold the trade overnight or over the weekend, and that forces me to be more patient. Usually I have like the patience of an ant, so even if I'm right, I usually exit too soon. With this weekend strategy, even though sometimes I still sell same day, as you'll hear, my goal is to hold overnight or over the weekend, and that allows me to frankly be a better trader. Can they see my screen? I want to show this real quick. Yeah, so these are some of my weekend trades. Just the past few weeks, FT. I'll break into the details of all of these, but FT was a little over 400. SONN, I made a little over 2,000. ASTI, I got a little too aggressive, lost 500. LUCY, I got a little too aggressive, I lost 1,000. NEON, I was dead on right. I made a little over 5,000. That was amazing. Made like 700 on CHGG, lost like 300 on MTPLF, made 2,000 on BJDX. But if you look at this is classic trading where I'm not winning 100% of the time, but my gains are bigger than my losses. And for me, that's always been the key to a successful trading career, but that's also the key for successful students. None of you are going to be right 100% of the time, but you can increase your odds of success by taking high odds setups. So I just want to go over some of these setups real quick, just so that you can, draw your own conclusions. But this was this week's play on FT. This is a wannabe crypto play. Now it's downtrending, but this was what I was interested in on Friday. Understand, the number one catalyst for me that I'm interested in that gets a stock on my watch list, that gets me thinking about buying the stock, is it has already spiked, okay? Sometimes I wake up pre-market when I was in Europe. I was waking up pre-market. It was easier because 4 a.m. Eastern is like 10 a.m. Eastern or 10 a.m. in Italy time. So that was good. Now I'm here in Vegas. There's no way I'm waking up at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. Eastern. I'm sorry. I need sleep, especially when doing this event and now Inner Circle the next few days. But FTFT was a crypto, and right here, a crypto play. This was last Friday, and right at 4 a.m., it spiked up. Like, this is what I love about pre-market runners right now. 4 a.m., this stock is trading at 150. It goes all the way to 5, okay? This is in 20 minutes. You triple your money in 20 minutes if you're awake. But understand, because that first spike is the catalyst that gets me interested, I'm just looking, can it spike again? All pre-market long, it's downtrending, downtrending, downtrending. Many of these plays that spike and then they downtrend, they never come back, I'm not interested. But in the middle of the day, 11 a.m., 12 p.m., 1 p.m., you start seeing this little cup and handle kind of chart pattern, right? And pretty impressive, but it comes up here to like 373, and then it comes down. And I did a video lesson on this. Maybe some of you watched it over the weekend. But you know, it goes all the way up here to 370. It's got resistance here at 4. It's coming down here into the close. And remember, I'm looking for plays on a Friday. This is my weekend strategy. Into the close, ideally 2:30, 3:30 p.m. Eastern. Why? Because I'm trying to bet on which stocks can spike into the close, which stocks can spike after hours, which stocks can spike the next week. This is a crypto play, so theoretically it can go on and on, especially if crypto is spiking. But it got up to 373 here. This was at 1:24 p.m. I don't like buying that early because I don't know if it's going to close strong. Sometimes, you know, it spikes up so much and then I have to sell because I'm taking the profits, but I want to try to hold over the weekend. So I'm typically going to buy stocks close to the close. That's like where I find the inefficiency is best, because 3 p.m., 3:30 p.m. Eastern, many people are winding down for the weekend. They're not paying attention. They're certainly not looking for new plays. I'm just sitting there getting ready. I'm like, what's going to be a good weekend play? So it gets up here to 370, comes down and fails. But notice here it fails, and the low here at 2:30 p.m. is like 3-ish. Mind you, you can see here on the chart, when it failed to break out midday, or I guess this was 10 a.m. Eastern, it failed at 3-ish. And right here, when it started the uptrend from 3 to 373, it started right at 3. So the fact that it holds 3, that's now a support zone, okay? Former resistance is now support on the way down. It successfully holds 3. That's a good sign. Here at like 3:15 p.m., it's holding around 320. I'm still not convinced that it can necessarily break 370 or 4, but I like that there's now support at 3 and 320. So what do? Let me show you my trade. This wasn't an ideal trade. Not every trade is going to be ideal. But I bought into the close 3,000 shares at 340-ish. Using the support levels of 320 and 3. So if I'm wrong, I think I could somehow cut the losses around 320, lose like 20 cents a share. But I also think that it can spike 10 to 20%. So do the math, 10% of a stock at 340, I think it can get back to roughly 370. If it breaks 370, I think it can get to 4. Those of you in the challenge know that Jack Kellogg and Stratty, they were actually giving a challenge webinar while I was in this trade. They were like live commenting on my trade. They're like, yeah, that's a pretty good stock. You know, Jack even said he thinks that just based on the chart, he thought that it could get to 420. I'm trying to hold it over the weekend, mind you, okay? I'm trying to take advantage of this inefficiency where I think that there's a good setup into the close, but most people are not seeing it because they're winding down for the weekend. Unfortunately for me, it's really spiking nicely right into the close. It gets up to 390, and as you can see on the chart, it actually hit 420. I don't know why it says 403. Oh, maybe it hit 420 like right after hours. Yeah, it hit 420, okay? Crazy call from Jack. I don't know if he really thought that it could hit 420, if he was making a weed joke, but either way, it hit 420. So nearly 80 cents a share from my entry, which is awesome. I sold some, and I had some issues because like it was right as the market was closing. I accidentally typed like added to, but my commentary was where I said sold some into this close as it's just a perfect short squeeze. In hindsight, I should have taken all the profits. But again, I'm trying to hold over the weekend. I'm trying to give this play more time. Turns out I shouldn't have at this point because as you can see here, that was a high and then it just continued to fade and fade and fade. And I actually had to cut losses this week on Monday at 290. So I actually lost more. I couldn't cut losses anytime sooner because it just gapped down so much. But this is what's been happening. The reason why I break this trade down, some people are like, Tim, who cares? It's just like a $400 profit. Because it's not just about the money that I made or lost on this trade. It's the process. One, I was right about buying for an end of the day squeeze. Two, I was right to sell into strength even though I'm trying to hold. Obviously in hindsight, I should have sold everything, but you never really know. Third, I cut losses when it didn't go my way because I knew whether I was up 400 or down 400, it did not do what I wanted. When a stock doesn't do what I wanted, I cut it. Some people get stubborn because they don't want to take the loss or, if they have a profit, they want like the full profit. I don't care. You have to focus on the chart, not necessarily your profit or loss. And I know that's tough because we're all in this to make money. But I promise you, if you focus on the process, the profits will take care of themselves. So even though I cut losses, this was a good cut. Like I said, in hindsight, I shouldn't have held any over the weekend. But at the same time, as you'll see in the next trade, sometimes it's good to hold over the weekend with a lot of these choppy stocks. I still finished with an overall profit and I had a good lesson. But the biggest lesson here is that crypto plays can really run. They can have that upside, but sometimes you have to sell into strength because this has been a trend lately where, this stock, look at it, it just keeps downtrending over and over. Finally, it got up to 340 again. I actually had a profit on it the other day, small profit, but then it failed here at 340 and literally in like 1 minute, it went from 340 down to 260 and then back to 320. Like, it's just crazy. Recognize that the markets are choppy and crypto plays are choppy, but I still finished with an overall profit. I want to compare that to this trade the previous week, SONN. So SONN, this is another speculative weekend play. I was in Europe for this one and I'm buying into the close. Funny enough, this was actually Stratty's idea, but he is going through all sorts of mental issues because he's on the verge of crossing $1 million. So like he wants to size in, but then he pulls back because then it's like, is he sizing in for the right reasons? I don't have any mental issues. I'm already over, million. I'm closing in on 8 million, but I just saw a good setup into the close. So let me show you SONN. Now it's not going to make sense because the stock has moved so much. But back in the threes, let me get rid of some of this. It actually ended going all the way up to $30 a share, which is crazy. So this chart is not going to necessarily show everything. So July 3rd, this was just a speculative biotech. But again, for me, what is the number one catalyst that gets me interested in a stock? The fact that it already spiked. Okay, it spiked big from basically $1.30 all the way up to $4.70. So the thing tripled, very similar to FTFT. Remember, FTFT went from the ones to nearly 5. So too did this. Okay, so for me, this is kind of the groove that I'm looking for, where a stock can double or triple first. And I'm not in it necessarily, but then I'm waiting to see how far it's going to come down off of its high, and if it comes down off of its high, can it re-attack that high? Because a lot of these stocks, if they come down a little bit off their high, it's like a magnet that's pulling it, that former high. I'm not saying it's necessarily going to break out, but it usually retests that, especially on these choppy stocks. So with SONN, Stratty, I think he bought it at like 350 or 360 and he sold it at like 350 or 360. He had like a small gain or a small loss, but it was very choppy, okay? And into the close right here on, it was right before the holiday. So the market didn't close at 4 p.m. that day, it closed at 1 p.m. So I know it's like a little confusing in the charts, but this was a holiday runner. And look at this, let me just zoom in more. So the high here was, 450. And all throughout the day, it's trying to get there, but it has resistance here at 4-ish. So it's holding right here into the close. Let me zoom in even more. remember, the market closes at 1 p.m. Eastern. So it's holding right here at like 375, 380. It's not quite a breakout, but again, a lot of the best plays, they hold near their highs, and then when they bust through their highs, it's very, very fast, as a lot of short sellers cover at high of the day breakouts. So that was what I was thinking when I was getting into this. And I bought it at 378, 4,000 shares with roughly 45 minutes to go before the close. I said this market is closed tomorrow. This ran big yesterday after hours. Let's see if it can do it again. I forgot to mention this. I was watching it run the previous day, and I didn't want to chase it because it was scary. Biotechs, I don't usually do the best, but this play was acting very similar to the previous day. So even if you miss a play, I highly encourage you to try to watch it and don't get discouraged. Many newbies get discouraged if you miss a play, if you lose on a play. The whole key is trying to learn from the price action and see if that price action repeats. Because even if you miss it the first time, you can get it the second time. If you remember David Hanlon's interview yesterday when he made the $1 million on the Bitcoin breakout, this wasn't his first rodeo with a Bitcoin breakout, okay? He made roughly $300,000 when Bitcoin had that first big breakout over 70,000. But if you remember, even though he made 300,000, that's fantastic. He had made like, I think 450,000 on one of the setups. Like he buys different instruments and different options, but then some of them he lost like 150,000. So I think he was up 450 and then he lost 150. So overall he made 300,000, but he did not nail it. This Bitcoin breakout, this time around, he nailed it. He learned from his losses last time, and that's why his profits are triple. So SONN, I missed it the previous day. I was actually surprised. If you guys remember in chat, I was commenting. I was like, this is crazy how far this is going. But in the stock market, history repeats. Leave that comment in chat. Say history repeats. It might not be an exact science. It doesn't always repeat, day after day, but oftentimes it does, right? Like I feel like the stock market, I say, has like a sense of humor, right? Where you're like, this isn't going to do it again, is it? Yes, it can. So that's what I was going for with this play. I didn't know if it was going to break out past the fours. This isn't that great of an entry. I'm not thinking like, oh, this is such a good deal. I'm just thinking maybe it's going to run after hours. Into the holiday, I can be a little more aggressive. That's when these plays can get more volatile. If you watch my old video lessons, you know that I love holiday plays. That's when, again, more traders take off. A lot of more short sellers, they're more scared because they recognize that these plays can just squeeze like crazy. And for me, that is a sign for me to be more aggressive, more speculative going into the holiday. I know many of you are like, what? Tim, I don't want to work on the holiday. I'm saying work a little more or grind a little harder right before the holiday. Because again, you're taking advantage of these inefficiencies. All $8 million that I've made basically are built on different inefficiencies in the markets. When I'm shorting, penny stock pump and dumps where the promoters are saying how great they are when in fact they suck, that's an inefficiency. Now there's so many short sellers, due in part to myself and many of us talking about how great shorting penny stocks are. Now there's too many short sellers and many of the short sellers don't show their losses. So there's an inefficiency where you have all these newbie shorts thinking that everything is so easy and then they just get annihilated and squeeze after squeeze. I always look for these inefficiencies. So again, this whole strategy, going overnight, heading into the weekend, it's just because people naturally wind down before the weekend. They naturally wind down before the holiday, right? If I was working in an office and it's like, let's say 3 p.m. on Christmas Eve, you might say, oh, you're like, Scrooge, you're working into the holiday. I'm not saying work through the holiday. I'm saying just take it up a little notch right before, because you realize that other people are going the other way. That gives you an advantage. In this game, you're just looking for whatever advantage you can find, whatever inefficiency you can find. So with SONN, I wasn't even convinced this is that great of a setup. But it's a holiday. The previous day, it ran big after hours, and it's holding near its highs. It's not going to take much to really blast off. So sure enough, it goes up to the fours. But again, I'm not convinced, okay? This is right before the market closed, so I'm up like 30 cents a share. And remember, the resistance here was, before it spiked up even more, overall the resistance here is at 470, but I'm not sure it can even get there. There's also this little resistance here at like 420. I'm not sure if it's gonna break 420, let alone 470. So what do? I do the safe, I play the safe route, okay? The safe route is to sell some at 409, just in case. And this is totally up to you. Most of my students who earn the most, they don't take profits this cowardly. This is me. I like taking profits this cowardly, just because, I've seen so many plays and I've seen so many things go right or go wrong. I just like safety. So I don't regret this at all. Selling, again, roughly 2/3 of my position just to lock in profits because it's a speculative trade, okay? Then an hour later, it goes up to 467. And at this point, again, I'm not trying to sell because I want to give this time, but at the same time, I recognize that there's more resistance here at 470-ish. So the first resistance zone was 420. I sell some to lock it in. Here it's up to 470, and I know that I have a $2,000 profit. This is where your own personal data comes in. I want to try to be in tune with the market, but I also have to recognize what I am good at personally. If you look at my trades now, I have data over 25 years of data. My average trading profit is roughly $1,500. You might hear me say 2K a day keeps the real job away. I say it often. So now it has hit my goals. It's just below that resistance at 470, and it is a holiday, okay? So all of this leads me to believe that I should just take the damn profits, which I did. And I put it in all caps. I said, selling the rest into a giant after hours spike. Maybe it goes more, but I'm not risking it. Stress-free and massive, 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 massive holiday winner. Congrats all longs. What an awesome way to end the week. I'll do a video recap later. So I actually did do a video recap later. But mind you, if you look at my commentary, this was at the end of a choppy week for me. I'm on, vacation in Europe. I just wanted to get out. Sometimes you're just like, screw it. I don't want to look at this play anymore. I don't want to look at the markets after hours anymore. And so I took it. And sure enough, I sold it right in here, which it actually did use this 460, 470 as a bit of a top into the close. It went back down to 420, okay? So I was happy. I'm very happy making the $2,000. Follow up on Monday, interestingly, at 4 a.m., right? We're back to normal hours after the holiday is over. This is on July 7th. It opens here at 440 and spikes straight up to 550, 560. This is in the first 3 minutes, okay? So had I been awake, I don't even remember if I was, on July 7th, I probably would have sold at a little higher prices, whether it's 460, 470, 485, 520. There was more money to be had. But mind you, if you don't wake up or if you're not ready to trade right at 4 a.m., it also dropped from 560 all the way down to 360. Okay, and this is by 4:20 a.m. So let's say you set your alarm for 4 a.m., maybe you're making coffee, maybe you're brushing your teeth, and you miss that first 3 minutes, and then by the time you get to your computer, it's already dropped $2 a share. Like, that's how choppy the stock is. And then maybe you sell it and you're like, oh, damn, I had no shares. But if some people had held it over the weekend and you sell it here and you're like, oh, this sucks, I just lost. So imagine selling this in the high 3s or the low 4s and being like, oh, I should have sold it. Then what does it do? Between 4:20 a.m. and 5:55 a.m. This is all before 6 a.m. Eastern. 6 a.m. Eastern, the thing is up to 650, okay? Remember, I initially bought this stock at $3.75 a share. The thing has spiked nearly $3 a share, but it also had a $2 a share drop in the interim. So the reason why I bring this up is like, okay, I could have made more, but I'm still very happy I didn't have to, wake up that early over the holiday. I locked in a little over what I normally make on any given trade. And this is a great example. You have to understand, I trade with small account size because I'm traveling nonstop, because I think that it's good to trade small. As a teacher, I think that, I'm encouraging you with the proper habits, but I want to show you the choppiness and I want to show you the upside potential, right? So like, if you look at these stocks where it's like, kind of like a crosshair, like if this were like Maverick and Top Gun, right? And you're in the fighter jet and you have the enemy in your grasps and the enemy's going all over and you're flying your jet, you have to try to get your crosshair in line with the enemy and then fire when it's like in sync. But the enemy's moving around and you're moving around. So, a lot of people, this is their trading, right? Like you want to get in the crosshairs, but it's not easy. So you have to do what's right for you. And you have to do what's right in the market. And the reason why I'm so excited right now, as opposed to all other times, is there are plays like this every single day, okay? And if you look at this, I didn't trade SONN perfect. I mean, my best sell was at 467, which at the time was very good. But the next day, $2 a share higher. But had I been awake here, I might have also taken a loss. So like sometimes to get the most reward, you have to deal with the chop and you have to take some risks. I'm not willing to do that. So for me, this $2,000 trade was a great trade. Was it best case scenario in the market? No, but it was best case for me. And this is why I love trading. Okay, $2,000, fantastic. But at the same time, this FTFT trade the very next week, I made much smaller amounts. And the reason why I held it over the weekend is because I thought it would do something like SONN. In hindsight, I should have sold FTTT and kept SONN. I actually did the reverse. But notice what happens. Between the two of them, I still made $2,500. So I got a profit and I got the lesson. Win-win. Many of you comment in chat like, you win on a trade, maybe you win like $100 or $500, but you could have made more. And every single time someone says that, I always say, good job, because A, you got some profits, so you moved your account a little in the right direction, and you got a good lesson. So it's win-win. These guys who I was just interviewing, notice they're all at, Rocky's at 300,000, Stratty's at like 950,000, Omer's over $1 million. None of them are completely happy with their trading, but they're completely on the right track. And they're getting more experience. They're all young guys. They're all in their 20s. Pretty amazing to see what they've done already. But they're getting the experience, they're getting the lessons, and they're growing their accounts. And that is what's going to help take them to the next level. Applying that to people like Jack Kellogg, Kyle Williams, David Hanlon. Okay? Jack Kellogg, I know Trey keeps saying 18 million, but he's over 21 million, okay? When we wrote everything here that we're presenting, Jack was at 18 million. He's made $3 million in the past few weeks. David Hanlon, I don't know if we had him in this presentation before, but just a few weeks ago, he was at like $6.5 million. In the past few weeks, he's made over $2 million. Kyle Williams, he's now over 7 million. All of these guys, when they got started in my challenge, when they got started at the very beginning, they had a few $1,000s to their name. So you might not think this is all interlaced and applicable, but it is. The way that I made the $400 on FTFT, the way that I made $2,000 on SONN, these are the same kinds of trades, the same kinds of patterns that David Hanlon, Kyle Williams, and Jack Kellogg can do with bigger size. And they do it with bigger size. Instead of taking, I had a 4,000 share position, they take 40,000 shares. Sometimes they take 100,000 shares. But it's the same trade. So some people are like, come on, Tim, trade big. No. I don't have the proper foundation that you guys do. Like I always say, I don't have the skill set required to take my trading up to the next level. Some people say, oh, if you're so good, why do you teach? Because I'm a better teacher than I am trader. You have to be honest with yourself. I know the rules. I'm very good at literally making $1,000, $2,000, but I did not have the proper training. And now, frankly, I'm too busy teaching others to really work on my own process. I've refined my process so I can do this over and over and over again. And I don't mind that students make more. I'm encouraged when students make more. You know, when Jack Kellogg can like guess my trades ahead of time, when he can guess the levels ahead of time, I'm not discouraged by that. I'm encouraged. Because I remember a few years ago when he had a few $1,000s to his name and he was trying to sell bamboo pillows in a Connecticut mall. And he came to me asking for help and I gave him the help. And now, frankly, he's doing better than I have ever done. Why? Because he has the foundation which I provided and which my team provided. And then he sized up. Okay? So that's what this is all about. I'm going to show you how I make a few $100s or a few $1,000s over and over and over again. Sometimes I lose a few $100s. Like even, you know, I'm here in the studio. I was here last night. It was pretty crazy. I'm trying to film. We're filming all these different videos, all these different interviews with different students. Last night, as we were filming, I literally, oh wait, I got to show you all my trades. It wasn't in my weekend newsletter, but it was just a random trade that popped up in DPRO. And literally, we got this on camera too, so you can see it later. It's actually funny because the cameras were filming me and I was filming something else and I'm like, sorry guys, I gotta focus. But literally last night, this trade popped up while I was in here in the studio and I saw a DPRO, which by the way, I was initially buying it in the 4s. It went all the way up to the 7s. I thought I missed it. Then we got $1 a share dip after hours and I took the dip, sold a little bounce, made $800 live on camera. This morning, when I was waking up, barely half up, LCID, I missed the initial breakout, but LCID had a very legitimizing type piece of news with Uber, where Uber is now going to work with, you know, Lucid, and the thing had already spiked big. Let me show you this just so that you understand. It spiked from the low 2s all the way up to 375. This is today. Let me show you this real quick. I missed this news right here, okay? The news came out right here. Lucid and Uber, and the thing went from 210 all the way up to 370. But this is the beauty of a hot stock market. Even if you missed that initial spike, this stock dropped from 375 back down to the 2s. So we got nearly $1 a share drop, and I got this little bounce right in here, and I made $800 this morning. Or $900. $900 this morning, $800 last night. So I am very far from an ideal trader, but I'm taking what trades I can and I'm showing you how you can still make a few $100s or a few $1,000s trading very cowardly. And none of you have as busy of a life as I am, okay? Like I'm not trying to brag, I'm just trying to tell you that I am not in an ideal setup to be a great trader. But I have optimized my setup to be a great teacher, whether it's live events like this or trades like this, or, you know, teaching students in person. I'm excited for all you Inner Circle students the next few days. This is what we do, okay? But I want to teach you the game. You can trade intraday, you can trade overnight, you can hold over the weekend. There's so many different plays, and you just find what works best for you. I have no bias whatsoever. If you like morning panic dip buys intraday, fantastic. If you like Friday holds over the weekend, fantastic. If you go into a Friday hold, but then your goal is met, you sell it same day, beautiful. Trading is all about adapting to what works for you, but you also have to study ahead of time. You have to know what plays are what. You have to know the patterns inside and out, and you have to know yourself. So I hope you learned from this little presentation of just some of my weekend trades. I can literally talk for hours about every single weekend trade, but the point is there are plays galore, morning, midday, and night. You choose which plays you want to take, you choose what position size you want to take, and I just hope that you learn and capitalize. So I really like this video because it shows how nothing is an exact science and I'm always adapting based on what's working for me and based on what's working in the markets. Everybody wants like perfect formulas. You want perfection. That's just not possible, okay? That's nonsensical. You can try your best. You can take partial profits. You can take positions that maybe you're not 100% sure of, but that's the beauty of trading. Trading is not just about making as much money as you can on every trade. It's also about testing your theories, testing your thesis, and then seeing how the thesis plays out, and then adapting based on what you see happening. So if you have to watch this video a few times, I know everybody thinks that it's all about how much money you make. No. In this video, I hope you learned that it's about the process and adaptation. So leave a comment below. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if my weekend newsletter is crushing it for you too. I love this strategy. I think everyone should really focus on these plays on like a Friday afternoon, especially right before a holiday when most other people are winding down. That creates an inefficiency. That's where we can truly capitalize.